My earliest memories of my family. A terrifying white balloon. Everyone has one's own memory of childhood. My memory of childhood starts on a cobblestone paved road called Blue Stone Road, Qing Shijie in Chinese, the main road 50 years ago, and still today, of Xinhua County in Hunan Province, southern China. I lived in a house close to the road with my family. When I say my family, it was not the customary nuclear family consisting of parents and their children, but rather grandparents, an aunt plus 2 uncles and I. As the only child, it shouldn't be hard to imagine my position as the core center of the family. Even now there are things I can clearly remember from when I was as little as 3 or 4 years old. One such memory takes place on the day I found a small, white, rubber tube in a rubbish pile, hastily picked it up and blew it into a balloon. I found it amusing and swiftly ran back home asking my aunt to tie the balloon up with some string. As soon as my aunt, who was in high school at the time, saw the balloon in my hand, her cheeks flushed bright red, panic-stricken. She looked as if the sky were falling and immediately called my younger uncle, Uncle. She came quickly with some used newspapers in his hand. He forcefully snatched my treasure away and quickly ran towards a toilet. At the same time, my aunt pushed me back towards a wash basin, cautiously avoiding my hands. Twice uncle, and then 3 times my aunt vigorously washed my hands. Being the center of the family, how could this be tolerated? Straight away I employed my typical method of resistance and glued my bottom to the ground. No matter how hard my aunt coaxed, I refused to get up, instead, yelling, "I want my white balloon. I want my white balloon," over and over at the top of my lungs. My screams were finally quieted when Uncle came running to me with 2 big colored balloons in his hands. It must have been more than 10 years after that event, I had continued wondering why my aunt was so terrified of that small white balloon. Until one day I suddenly realized that that white balloon was in no way a child's toy. It is of great importance when 2 adults exchange their love, and today, an absolute necessity, more to prevent getting disease than for contraception. Sorry, my poor aunt. I became a 6-year-old by the year 1960. It was the most horrible time throughout all of Chinese history, if not the whole history of humankind. The entire Chinese nation was suffering from starvation, yet I had little memory of hunger when I was with that family. Until one day, I was taken by my father from this hometown to Changsha, where I would grow up. 2. Leaving Xinhua for Changsha. I vividly remember the day. After the usual nap, I went to Zhejiang River again with my 2 uncles. I played with sand and stones at the riverbank while my uncles were swimming. When the sun's glow dyed everything golden, again I heard my elder Uncle Din's self-satisfying but out-of-tune singing. The twilight is declining to the western hill. Then, as always and with a much softer voice, he changed the lyrics to, the eastern sun is declining down the western hill. Just when I was about to plug my ears with my fingers, I heard my aunt shouting, "Danjiu, my Chinese name, your father is here. Quickly, let's go home." That was the first time I had heard the title father in my life. With no time to think, I was taken home and placed in front of a complete stranger. He was very thin, emaciated even. Forgive me if I overemphasize a bit how hollow his cheeks looked, as if he were a skeleton covered by a sheet of skin. His side glance at me through his glasses made me shiver. Quickly I hid myself behind my aunt. However, my aunt pulled me out gently and pushed me in front of the man again. In addition, she asked me to call him Baba, father. Every member of the family sat around the dining table, except for Grandpa. Being the symbol of family authority, Grandpa's absence was rather unusual. I wondered why suddenly, Grandpa said he felt a little uneasy. My father took Grandpa's place. Deadly silence made the sound of peeling candy paper and chewing extraordinarily noisy. Uncle, she placed another into his mouth before he had even finished his first. In a muffled voice he whined.
Better than nothing.
What? Father responded. Uncle, she swiftly swallowed what was left in his throat and moaned.
No more than a small bag of candy. I thought after so many years my big brother coming home would bring us some rice or meat.
What do you think we are, kids?
Uncle Din was the only one who withstood the lure of this sweet, tasty candy. He lost control at this stage.
The whole family has had no rice for a long time. Every day we eat vegetables, sometimes even grass, tree leaves and bark.
Aunt captured the last 2 candies and handed them to Uncle Din.
Take them before nothing is left.
Uncle Din did not accept the loss of dignity. The 2 candies on the table in front of Uncle Din captured all eyes in the room, particularly the 2 belonging to Uncle Shi. In an attempt to maintain a family-like atmosphere, Aunt voiced her complaint in a very peaceful, soft tone.
Though they are noisy, what they say is true. Our family has been suffering from hunger for more than a year now. You are the eldest son of the family. You are the only one who works for the government in the capital city of the province. In any way possible, you ought to do something to help the family.
Aunt's words were like oil pouring on Uncle Din's fire. He shouted.
That's right, that's right. Not only doing nothing to help the family, but also added your burden for us to carry.
My burden? My father disagreed in a low voice. Yes, the boy is my son, but he also belongs to the country. Father's voice was growing louder and more emphatic little by little. It is our great leader Chairman Mao who called on our nation to have as many children as possible for the use of war. We followed his great teaching to have 4 children. That's why I say they are not only our children but also children of the country. In this sense, everyone in this country has an obligation to raise them.
Nonsense. You make children for the use of war? Animal.
Uncle Din was now furious. Grandma saw things were getting too intense. She stood up endeavoring to strike a balance.
Stop. That's enough. It's not easy for us all to sit together around the same table. Can't we be more like a family?
As soon as she finished having her say, Grandma calmly collected the 2 remaining candies, making eye contact with Uncle Din to be sure he in no way wanted them for himself.
I'll put them into a jug so that we can all share some sweet water.
After everybody was quiet for a while, my father slowly, deliberately, cut a letter heading paper into 8 small, equally sized pieces. He then opened a small, old, iron box, took out a bit of loose tobacco, put it in the middle of a small paper and rolled himself a horn-shaped cigarette. He lit the cigarette and deeply inhaled it 3 times. As he couldn't find a good excuse for not helping the family, he decided to make his voice half-official jargon-like.
Now our nation is temporarily in difficulty due to 3 years of continual natural disasters, plus the Soviet revisionism and other imperial countries that have us by the neck. Not only our family but the whole country, including the capital city of the province, even the central government, everybody is short in food. Haven't you heard? Our great leader, Chairman Mao, also has stopped eating meat after he heard many of our class brothers and sisters lost their lives from starvation.
It is said from 1958 to 1961, 36 million Chinese lives were lost as a result of starvation or related reasons. Though some intellectuals doubt the accuracy of the number, a couple of million more or less dead bodies seems not to bother the Chinese much.
What should we do? Wait to die?
Uncle Shi's voice worsened the mood. Silence again, this time without even the noise of peeling candy paper or chewing. My father took one last deep inhale of his cigarette until his lips felt burnt. He changed his tone to a more domestic one.
Exactly, because we know you are also in difficulties. The kid's mother, I mean your sister-in-law, and I decided to release your burden by taking my son Danju back. I'm afraid this is the only thing we could do to help at this moment.
After a little pause, my father obviously tried to cheer everybody up by saying,
We must trust our great leader Chairman Mao and always correct Communist Party. Our country will be better and better from now on.
As no one seemed to be cheered up, my father's effort was in vain. Uncle Shi moaned again.
If our eldest brother had finished his university degree instead of taking part in the Communist Party's revolutionary activity before liberation, at least he could now earn some money by some other related work. If he had done that, he would be able to do his share supporting our old parents.
Capturing the gap before my father's response, Uncle Din poured out with grouse.
If revolution can't bring our family a better life but results in hunger for the whole nation, what's the meaning of it? Gas.
Father raised his voice with authority.
Be careful, what I have just heard was anti-revolution. It's dangerous, especially from a non-working class family.
Uncle Din was outraged by his brother's words. He jumped up and shouted.
Remember? Just like most of your party members, you cut all ties with your family a long time ago when you joined the party. Whatever happens to us, you've got nothing to worry about.
The above dialogue must be nonsense to most nations on earth, but was absolutely of the greatest importance, to every single Chinese family at that time. It was so vital that it could mean the difference between to be or not to be. And also looked quite anxious, she clarified.
Our father's class is self-employed and AMP, small land renting. It is self-employed before small land renting. In addition, after the victory of the revolution, our father was once elected to be the people's representative of the country. Therefore, our family is in no way anti-revolutionary class. If not, how could the people's enemy represent the people? Right?
Such an important debate was, of course, not suitable for a child of 6. Grandma saw things getting out of hand. She took my hands and dragged me into the kitchen. She made me promise to stay there until being called. Then again, she went into the battlefield endeavoring to extinguish the fire. My sensitive nose led me to a small aluminum lunchbox. Guess what I discovered? 2 boiled eggs and 2 baked Chinese sweet potatoes. As my mouth was still busy with some candy, I decided to let them be for a little while longer. The quarreling of the adults was getting louder and louder. Curiosity forced me to put my face against the kitchen door. Through the gap I saw my father standing up, saying to Grandma,
Where is Danju? We've got to go at once, otherwise we'll be late for the train.
Won't you have something to eat before going?
Grandma hinted for father to go into the kitchen.
Eat? Eat what?
Uncle Din cut in.
He brought nothing home. What have we got for him to eat?
The kitchen door again was opened. My father quickly walked towards me and grasped my hand, dragging me out. My instinct was to bite him. Fortunately, he avoided my teeth in time. I got away from him and quickly hid myself behind Aunt as always. To my immense surprise, a 1,000 million surprises, she pushed me away. My aunt, the woman who had always kept her arms open to me, in any case at any time had always been my protector, was not this time. For the first time in memory, she pushed me away. This unthinkable action turned my surprise into anger. I decided to make her pay for what she had done to me by going away with this stranger. Without me, she must be sad to death. I imagined with a bit of satisfaction. The next thing I remember, I was on a train. I leaned against the window, anxiously expecting Aunt to take me back. But when I saw her with the lunchbox in her hand, running beside the train, back and forth searching for me window by window, again I felt like playing a game. Every time Aunt passed by my window, I lowered my head so that I was invisible until the train started to move. I stretched my head up and waved my hand to Aunt. When Aunt saw me, she hastily held up the lunchbox yelling,
Danju, Danju, take it, take it.
but that was too late. The train moved faster and faster. The figure of Aunt's body became smaller and smaller, until it faded away. When I realized it was no longer a game but real, my aunt and I were apart, I burst into tears.
I want sweet potato. I want sweet potato.
I clamored. My father showed no response to my crying, only changed seats with me. Now he replaced me, sitting by the window. After I gave up the hope that my aunt would appear again, I turned my eyes to my father. He avoided eye contact by turning his face to the window and gazed out. My crying got softer and softer, gradually becoming like a little monk chanting Buddhist scriptures. Like that, I left my grandparents, my aunt, and my uncles, the old family that has been loving me so much, and went to a completely unknown people and world.